Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 102 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome back to episode 102 of the Well Done Life podcast. I hope you guys are having a great week. Welcome back. I'm so glad to be here with you this week. If you're new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep. Thank you so much for coming back. Thank you for your continued support. I'm just glad that you're here another week with me. Before we get started with this week's episode, I always like to set the foundation. It's really important for me as we are building this safe space, this house, that I'm building it on a really strong foundation. So for me, that foundation is always going to be rooted in clarity and love. Clarity, it's pretty straightforward. I just want to make sure you understand why you're here. The Well Done Life podcast is a podcast for women. I created this podcast because I wanted to create a safe space where we could be vulnerable, where we can share our stories and learn and grow from each other. So now that you understand why you're here, let's talk about my other foundation, and that's love. Love is always going to be the root of everything that we will do in this space. And so I want to make sure that you know that you are loved while you are here. And because of that, I like to make sure that I send you prayers. This week, I'm sending you prayers of peace. I'm sending you prayers of patience because Lord knows it's crazy in these streets. Crazy. I was just talking to someone today, a client actually, and they were like, I haven't even talked to you in so long. I haven't talked to you since, I know it's been since before Russia bombed Ukraine. And I said, yeah, it's funny how none of us had World War III potentially on our 2022 bingo cards. So like I said, the world is crazy and it's just amazing how many things that we are all going with. So I definitely want to make sure you have prayers of peace. I'm also giving you or sending you prayers of prosperity. I'm sending you prayers of clarity. I want to make sure that you understand who you are. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we've been kind of on that trend, especially as we are in this last month of Q1 and talking about our goals and where we are aligning. I want to make sure that you understand how powerful you are, how much you can accomplish. I want you to understand who you are because it is going to become so important as you are moving forward toward your goals, to your visions, to your dreams, that you get extremely clear about who you are and what you will and will not allow in your life. So clarity is very important. And I'm also sending you prayers of rest because in times like these, you do need to rest. Take naps where you can. Try to get a good night's sleep. I know I'm probably the last person to proponent about getting a good night's sleep because I'm up recording at 11 o'clock on Wednesday the 16th, but we're not going to discuss that right now. I was motivated, so we had to go forward, but I want to make sure you're getting good rest because good rest is going to help sustain you and we make better decisions. I think you make better decisions when you have good sleep and you're not hungry because hangry thoughts can definitely lead to some really crazy decisions. Think about it. Just saying. So those are just some of the prayers that I want to send you this week as we are going forward. As we start to kind of lean our way into this week's episode, I first and foremost want to make sure I say thank you guys for your support of last week's episode 101, which still sounds crazy being in triple digits. So excuse me when I have like a little laughter after I say these numbers. But 101, I decided to run. It was really great to get feedback about it. And like I said in that episode, I've really made the decision this year to run towards myself and toward the things that I want, to stop playing small and to just kind of step into who I am and what I want to accomplish, and just trying to make sure that as I am noticing the themes of things that I have documented in my journal, that I am standing in who I am, my truest, most actualized self, because if not now, when will I be that way? And I think that same question has to be asked by all of you out there as well. If not now, that you move forward into your goals, into your purpose? When are you going to do it? I mean, like I gave you guys the example. I'm 49 now. So what, am I going to wait another 10 years and I'll be 59 trying to figure it out? 59 trying to figure out their happiness in their life and their journey. I'll be honest, it's not sexy. Not saying that it's old, because I don't personally believe 59 is old at all. But I feel like in my late 50s, I want to be enjoying the fruits of my life even more. So it's like, if I don't get moving into some of these things, when am I going to do it? And I think that that applies to whatever age you are, because life is not promised to any of us. And why not? I mean, why are we holding ourselves back? So if you need some encouragement along that line, I'm going to make sure that I link episode 101 in the show notes. I would definitely, hopefully give it a listen. But this week, I kind of wanted to come back and kind of, I guess, build on the momentum, but then stick with where we are, like I said, with our theme. So the theme of this month is we're at the end of Q1. This is the last month of the first quarter of 2022. And this has been a time where, we've written the goals out, we've done the vision boards, we have the intention charts, we have the daily plans, we have all the things to try to hold us accountable. And so I feel like the best way, especially as we're preparing to go into another quarter, it becomes imperative that we actually take a moment, sit down, and look at what we've accomplished over these past 3 months and celebrate the successes, because, it's so important. I don't care how small it is, those successes are going to motivate us as we are going forward into Q2. And then also think about the things that maybe didn't go as well or didn't go as planned. Let's put it that way. And what did we learn from those moments? Because it's not about beating ourselves up. We have to stop with the negative self-talk, because the negative self-talk, all it does is stop us from moving forward. But we have to look at, what did we learn by the delay or by the thing that didn't work out the way that we planned? How are we going to move differently? How can we adjust ourselves? What can we do? Because everything begins and ends with us. So we have to take these moments to do that. And for me, this is such a big topic, because I am kind of taking my goals and intentions in a different way. And I keep saying goals, but I need to say intentions, because that's how I'm really holding it accountable. I didn't do a vision board or wish list, none of that this year. I did intentions, and I did things that I left behind in 2021 and things that I left behind in 48. And so I am holding myself accountable every day. At the end of the day, which I will do after this podcast for today, is I sit down and I look at my intentions that I had set for the day, and I think about what were the challenges that I faced and how did I overcome them, and what did I successfully achieve, and what am I going to do differently tomorrow? That's actually how I have it set up in my planner. And my goal is that I'm analyzing this at the end where we are right now and deciding how I want my intentions planner for Q2 to look. Because I feel like when we're setting our intentions or our goals, what have you, it's not a one size fits all kind of thing. It's going to be customized to where we are at that particular moment in time, what we're trying to accomplish. So I think we have to sit down and put that type of effort into ourselves. So that's what I'm doing. And so as a part of that, I wanted to share with you, which is where we are right now, where we are talking about, the things that worked, things that didn't work, the lessons and tips that we can take going into April or Q2. So this week, I have to admit, it has been a very challenging week for me. It's so funny. I was getting dressed for the evening earlier after work, and I was saying to myself, God, last week I talked about, deciding to run to myself on the podcast. And this week, the way that I'm feeling, I just want to just run in the bed and cover up my head and just say, fuck all this, because I'm fresh out. And yes, that is literally where my mindset is at 11:07 on Wednesday. Now, don't get me wrong. I know that, we're always going to have challenges. We've talked about it before. I've mentioned it, especially as you are trying to align more to who you are supposed to be and your intentions and boundaries. It's like you start to get tried even harder, and there's more opportunity where you have to really execute all the things that you're saying to yourself and writing down in your intentions journal or planner every day. And that's where I am. This week has definitely been one of those weeks where it's like, I'll be honest, I've been thrown off. And I was trying to pinpoint exactly when it was that I got thrown off. And I definitely know exactly when it was. It was on Monday, and because I had gotten like some surprising news I wasn't anticipating, and it triggered me from old memories. And I'm still kind of processing through it, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I'm not trying to will anything into the atmosphere at this point because it's so subjective. I'm just trying to view it like this is going to be okay and this isn't going to be something that's going to deter me. But I'll be quite frank, it shook me to the core because I was really traumatized by this situation. I carry this trauma from many, many years ago, and I thought I had kind of healed from it and just moved on because, hey, I'm good and everything's fine. But I guess obviously I'm not. And I have to admit, I think no matter how much I've tried to talk myself into believing that, I've got this and it's going to be okay, you always have those little secondary doubts that sometimes can creep in and pull at you and make you afraid. So I have spent the last, at least I would say Monday, Tuesday, talking over myself a lot, like trying to calm that fear down and speak to my triggers. And remember, we kind of talked about being able to speak to your fear and speak to your triggers in several episodes, because I always reference back Elizabeth Gilbert's book, Big Magic. It's a book for creatives. I can't think of the rest of the title, but it definitely has a section in there where she is speaking to fear, and she's telling fear that you are a passenger in this car on the journey, but I'm the one who controls the key, and I'm the one who is going to decide how this journey is going to go. You're here, but I'm not going to let you control me. So I have spent the past couple of days doing that for myself, and I have to admit, it is still kind of helping. It's helping, but I'm still a little triggered. And, being able to have the wherewithal to recognize when you are triggered is very important, because part of that trigger also is me being all tested where my boundaries are concerned. And I think especially as we are trying to move through our goals and our intentions, boundaries become an even more important part of the conversation. So I have to admit that I am been reading, and I think I mentioned this a few episodes ago. I know I did. I have been reading Nedra Tawwab's book, Set Boundaries, Find Peace. I've been reading this book for a while. And unfortunately, I think it's just because of time and other obligations, I haven't really been able to sit down and read it as voraciously as I would have liked. And I thought by now I would be finished. Luckily, I'm almost finished, but I have found that in this week where I am triggered, I've wanted to cling more back into the book, because if I could say anything, when you are trying to look at your goals and your dreams, your visions, your aspirations, and you are trying to set the course for how you're going to move forward, one thing that is going to be key in you being a success on your journey is establishing and executing boundaries. And I know that kind of maybe sounds a little different, but kind of bear with me, because remember, we're on this trajectory. Like for myself, it is very important for me that this is the year that I take the limits off. Like I told you guys last episode, I am running toward me. I've made the decision to run toward my goals. I am throwing a little bit of caution, or some caution, to the wind. And I have decided, you know what? I'm ready to move forward. And so when I made that decision, when I put that energy out into the atmosphere, I opened myself up for challenges. And that's going to happen no matter what you're trying to do. There's always going to be a challenge. When anyone does anything that goes against the grain, here come the challenges. Because the norm just flows, but the challenges, they rush through, and it's just going to be people questioning or situations not working out and you having to pivot. There's always going to be something that is going to come up to see if you really made the commitment to move forward. So, like I said, I've made this commitment, but this week I was triggered and my trigger really kind of threw me off kilter. So it's like right now I kind of got unfocused for a little bit and I forgot that I'm still going to be tried. I'm still in the world. I'm still going to have things thrown at me. It's not like other people can look at me and see that I'm going through and that I have things on my mind that could be distracting me. So they're going to try you. They're going to try me. And that's what's happened. But I have, instead of kind of reacting, even though I'm not going to pretend and say I didn't react, I did react one day. I did. I did. And I'll talk about that when we talk a little bit more about this book. But I have been drawn back to making sure that I am checking my boundaries. So like I said, I instantly have gone back into Nedra's book. And I'm luckily on chapter 10 now, but last night, because last night was a night and I needed somebody to help calm me down and kind of help me get myself together, it was great because it was like the section I was reading is, what are you doing to honor your boundaries? And I think we all, when we set boundaries, we initially are like, I'm not going to let anyone disrespect me and I'm going to manage my time in XYZ ways. We say all of these different boundaries that we have. But the challenging part becomes when you have to execute. And it's funny because when I was reading this book, there were some really good points in here about how you have to execute your boundaries and how you have to speak to yourself. Just like what we were talking about a moment ago, when you speak to your fears, you have to be able to speak to yourself when it comes to your boundaries, because self-talk is real. It really is. I mean, I've talked to you guys about it. I do talk to myself quite a bit sometimes because I have to speak over myself. I have to calm my nerves down sometimes because I can be like a whole different person. I mean, I'm from Brooklyn. I'm just not even going to lie. I'm from Brooklyn and I have a Brooklyn attitude at times. And when it pops off, it pops off. I'm extremely patient. But at the same time, when the patience is gone, honey, I'm a whole new bag. And so I have to be honest with that. And I've also mentioned to you guys that, I can be my harshest critic. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of us are really tough on ourselves, especially when we make mistakes. So it's just trying to be able to give ourselves grace. And we're always talking about it, but it just seems like we have to, because there's too many times when we're triggered and we pop off. And then we forget to give ourselves grace for where we are in that moment, because we don't recognize that a lot of times that pop off occurred because of something else that we're going through. Or we know that it's because of something else that we're going through and we're just not really open enough to admit it. We haven't set that boundary where we're able to be as completely free with our feelings as we need to in order to be able to move forward. So there's always a lot of factors in that. But as we're, like I said, talking about boundaries, and especially in moments where we're triggered, I did find last night some mantras for self-kindness that I really liked. And I was like, wow, mantras for self-kindness. Sometimes we always have mantras, to help us like be motivated and to focus. But just to be able to have a kind word for ourselves, to be able to have a mantra, I think that's also powerful. So I want to share 3 that are in Nedra's book. The first one is, it will be okay. And it's funny, I say that to myself all the time. It's going to be okay. Because it just, for some reason, it calms me. So maybe it may calm you. I did my best. And that one to me is always a harder one to say, because I think that a lot of times when we are in situations, especially when we're talking about things that just didn't go the way that we want them to go, being able to admit that we did our best is really tough to say sometimes, because again, we're always questioning our output and our inputs into things, and we just don't give ourselves the credit that we deserve. I always reference this book, but I have to in this moment, especially when we're talking about I did my best. The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And there are 5 agreements, but the 4 agreements is what I'm talking about. And in the 4 agreements, when he mentions always do your best, you have to understand part of that is that your best is always going to be adjusting. It's going to change based upon how you're feeling, what you're going through. So your best might only be 10% sometimes, but you know what? That's your best. And that's where you are emotionally, mentally, physically, and that's all you're capable of. And you know what? It's okay. It'll be okay, because that was enough in that moment. And we have to give ourselves grace in order to feel that way. And then the last one, they didn't deserve me. And I think that when I read that one, I thought of more so in terms of relationships and sometimes friendships that fall apart. Because I think, in relationships, it's obviously pretty easy to see where to say, they didn't deserve me, because there could have been something that occurred in the relationship that broke it apart, a violation of trust, what have you. But in friendships, that is something that we do have to think about, where, it could be a major friendship violation, and it's just unfortunately something that you're not able to move past after conversation, and your friendship has to move apart. Maybe they didn't deserve you. And if that's not haughty or anything to say, that's just honest, because not everyone deserves your time or your energy. So I wanted to share those because I think those are like 3 little quick, easy mantras that can help. But ultimately, like I said earlier, being able to establish boundaries, being able to understand the power and being able to execute our boundaries is going to be key to us being able to move forward. And setting boundaries is not easy. There's always going to be a challenge, because boundaries can unfortunately make some people feel very uncomfortable with you. And we all have heard those things before. I mean, it is because not everybody can love the new you, or not everybody is going to be able to feel comfortable with the new you. Not even, and we have to understand that a lot of that projection, or actually all of that projection, is really about the other person. It has absolutely nothing to do with us, because we all project our emotions on people, unfortunately, all the time. And so we have to be cognizant of that when we're dealing with people like that, and especially cognizant of that for ourselves, because like I said earlier, I'm from Brooklyn. I popped off. I had a situation occur, and it really angered me, and I did yell at that person. I yelled and I cursed, and I felt terrible. And I had to tell her in the middle of me yelling and cursing, I'm not angry with you, because I know that this has absolutely nothing to do with you. I'm just angry that this other person unfortunately left and created this situation like this that now I have to clean up. And it just really puts me in an awkward spot. And so, unfortunately, I made that person the brunt of my anger, which was totally inappropriate. And I apologized to her afterwards. And I caught myself about that, because that is also one thing as you are learning how to balance your emotions and balance your boundaries, that it becomes important for us to control how we react to people, especially people who may be the messenger. I mean, it's just the truth. You can't shoot the messenger. And I feel like sometimes we really do, because we're caught up based upon, unfortunately, other situations. Remember, because like I said, I had been triggered. So I was triggered earlier. And instead of giving myself the grace to be able to say, you know what, I can't handle this right now. I need to take a few moments or a day to figure out what I want to do. I appreciate you sharing this information with me, and I'll follow back up with you. But I need some time. I just kind of barreled through like a bull in a china shop, and I created a situation that I don't feel comfortable with, and that I wound up having to apologize for. And I was very fortunate that the person was very understanding, because they knew the situation and how it occurred. And they would have felt, and they said they would have felt the exact way that I feel. But at the same time, that's something that I shouldn't have done, because being able to be so angry or allowing anger to be how we communicate when that's not who we are as a person. Because I'll be quite honest, I really don't like arguing with people. I've made a vow actually that I'm not going to argue with anyone, because it's just not good for my skin or my soul. And so when anybody takes me outside of that character, I have to question myself. I don't question the other person. You have to question yourself, because that means that your triggers, your emotions are not in a line. And so we have to give ourselves the grace to be able to step out of situations that we can be triggered in, or to step out of situations that we're just not prepared to handle. And see, as it relates back to us in our goal conversation and the things that didn't work out, when things don't work out, the first thing that we do in a lot of instances is we lash out. We lash out at the people that are closest to us. But in actuality, we really should be giving ourselves and them the grace of saying, you know what, I need a few minutes. I'm not ready yet. I'll come back. And I know that feels awkward sometimes, being able to separate ourselves and take time. But why? Why does that feel awkward? Why shouldn't we be able to take time away and allow ourselves to process? It's funny. I gave myself some grace with a meeting after I had that little blow up. I told a colleague, like, I just cannot right now spend time in this meeting with you. I have this other thing going on. And I'll be honest, I'm just not mentally prepared to be able to have this dialogue with you. And it felt really great. And then I think about it, even in situations with our family and our friends, why are we not extending that type of grace? It's not a reflection of how we feel about them. It's just a reflection that we need time to process, that we need time to focus. And I think that those moments are so critical. They're so important because, again, remember, as you were trying to set boundaries, by doing that, you're setting a boundary with how much you're going to allow your emotions to be dictated by someone else's time clock. And you're giving yourself the grace to be able to refocus and come back to the situation clearer. And I think that that is just so important. And we have to do more of that, especially as women, because we carry so many responsibilities. It's like you can feel in certain moments that you're catching it at work, you're catching it at home, you're catching it everywhere, and it can get overwhelming, especially as you are trying to achieve your goals. Because yes, we love our family, we love our friends, but we also have these things within us that we're trying to accomplish and balance all of this beautifully. And it's tough. It is hard. It gets thankless, and we get frustrated. And some days we're going to pop off, or some days we're going to cry, or some days we're going to feel like we just need to run in the bed and hide. And all of those feelings are so normal. We just have to give ourselves the grace to understand that we can take that time and it will be okay, because it will all work out. And that our boundaries matter, because boundaries are key to our success in our lives, and how important it is for us to thrive and to follow through with that. I'm trying to find this quote that was here, and actually, yep, I found it. And this is also in Nedra Tawwab's book. And this quote says, "The ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes part of your identity. It's one thing to say, I'm the type of person who wants this. It's something very different to say, I'm the type of person who is this." And this is from James Clear of Atomic Habits, which I've also heard is another amazing book as well. And see, to me, when you are setting boundaries, when you are establishing those things about yourself, that's what you're saying. you're about this life and you are claiming it and following through. So we should feel comfortable in being able to communicate what we need and what we want. And so when we take those steps, which I would again keep referencing Nedra's book, we have to understand that as we're on that journey, you're going to have to say it to other people over again. As you are establishing your boundaries, you're going to have to speak over yourself with your boundaries. You're going to have them around you to help you, remind you of you being on the journey. Because like I've mentioned to you guys before, like I keep the things that I left behind in 2021 on my cell phone and my computer because I'm there all the time. So, and I'm looking at it. So I just need to constantly have a reminder to myself not to slip into old habits. But you also have to deal with people that way as well, because not everybody's going to get it the first time. People are going to slip into their habits because, again, people are just operating from their vantage point. So it is very important that you give yourself space for that. And then while you're restating that, again, give yourself grace. Give yourself that space not to get frustrated. Give yourself that space to feel what you feel if you're upset or angry, but just don't take it out on the world, and give yourself a moment if you need to so that you can refocus and come back stronger. But give yourself that time so that you can do it and that you can be able to clearly restate and articulate what you want so that people can give you what you deserve and what you need. And then ultimately so that you can give yourself what you deserve and you need. Because no matter what, we're all going through something. Ultimately, we are. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I mean, the world is kind of crazy right now. We're trying to get back to a semblance of normalcy after the pandemic. And it feels weird to say after the pandemic because we still are in it. But it's just kind of, I think, becoming more controlled. But then at the same time, we're dealing with so many different economic pressures. We're dealing with societal pressures. We're dealing with world pressures. I mean, there's just pressure all over the place. And what are we doing to control that? Are we just trying to go along and get everything back to normal? Or are we creating that space where we're like, I'm forever changed from this situation. So how I deal with people, how I deal with myself has been changed. And I'm still out here trying to achieve my goals and do all the things that I can do. But I also know that I have to give myself grace now. I also know that I need to set boundaries now. I also know that I need to enforce my boundaries too. I also know that by enforcing my boundaries, I'm going to get a lot of challenges. People are going to try me. And how am I going to react to people trying me? And when people try me, is that going to distract me from my goals and my intentions and my vision? Or am I going to check in with myself even harder and speak over myself even more so that I can stay focused on the journey? See, there's just so many questions, so many paths to go. That's why I said establishing boundaries are key. Because I'll be quite honest, for as much as I want to jump in the bed and hide and cry and all those things, I know that if I were to really examine where I am right now, it's Wednesday, I would say at least 67, no, I'm going to say 70. I'm going to be gracious. I'm going to say at least 80% of everything that I have accomplished this week, I accomplished because I established boundaries. And I felt good about it. Yes, I was mad about some stuff because, girl, yes, hopping ass mad. I was like Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy till I die mad. But I was still able to pull it back and still keep going and forgive myself for the missteps and then recalibrate so that I can stay aligned to the goal. Because my intentions are to run. My intentions are to do all the things that I set out to do this year. And I'm not going to be deterred. Just simply put, I'm not. Because if I don't do them now, when am I going to do them? And this is my time. So I am speaking over myself, getting the rest, talking through, praying, doing whatever I need to do to stay focused. And that's what you need to do. You have to take this opportunity as you are on this journey, as well as we are counting down to the last part of March before we step into Q2, and we look at our goals and see what we've done, and we celebrate our wins and we discuss our challenges. You have to decide what your boundaries are. And you've got to articulate them, and you've got to enforce them. And you've got to give yourself the grace of forgiveness when it doesn't work out the way that you initially thought it would. Because this is your time. And if you don't take this time now to move forward, to do the things that you want to do, then when are you going to do it? And why aren't you going to do it? Because if not now, why not? That's what I mean. Seriously, like, we all have to get really serious about it, because challenges are going to come up. Like I said, they're going to come up. So if you're going to let the challenge delay you, I feel like one of the main things that you need to do before you decide, you know what, I can't do it, this is not my time. Okay, why not? You need to answer that question for yourself. Like I said, it's not about me. This isn't a cookie cutter solution. It's just, you got to answer that question, because answering that question is the key to you being able to go to your next level. It's being able to move forward. Because a lot of times when we sit and we think about why not, why can't I do something right now, a lot of times we don't have really strong answers. We don't. And you know why we don't have really strong answers? Because we really haven't really thought this through. We really don't have a reason why we can't accomplish our goals. We don't. And then we really dig into it, and if people are involved and you bring up other people, then what boundaries have you established with these people so that they're not impacting you from your goals or your job or what have you? What is it? And that's why I say boundaries are key. Boundaries are the key to everything. And it sounds weird, but it's not, because if you know what you want and you know what you will accept, you have a roadmap, essentially, to how you want to live your life. That means that you know how you want your relationships to be, what feels good to you, what doesn't, how you want to move through the world, who you are. And that means that when challenges come up, they automatically encounter the roadmap. And your roadmap tells you how to deal with these situations and how to move forward. So if you have the roadmap to how to deal with situations and how to move forward, there's really not too much that can stop you but you. So then it goes back to, why not? And then that gives you the room to be able to speak over yourself, to move past your fears and your doubts, because those are typically the things that are holding us back in regards to achieving all of our goals and all of our intentions. It literally is normally just us, because it's not like a lot of us are doing things that have never been done. They've been done before. They may not be done the way that you're going to do them. People may not have achieved the success that you will possibly achieve from doing them, but they've been done before. So why not take a shot and see what you can do? Why not take the fear out of the way and recognize, because you have set your boundaries, put your roadmap in place, that you're equipped to do this, and go for it. That's why boundaries are the key to everything. So I hope you kind of gleaned what I was saying from that. I hope you understand that this is the time where it's like, okay, as we're sitting down, writing the plan, making it together, thinking about how we want to move into Q2, it's time to make sure we just do a boundaries check. It's time to make sure that we have everything aligned in the way that is going to help us build this roadmap to this next level, because it's critical. It's mission critical right now, because remember, I keep saying this, if not now, when? This is your time. So you got to make sure that you got your roadmap, your boundaries together, you're enforcing them and holding true. And we all need a boundary check. All of us do. I know some people say, oh, I got my boundaries. I know what I will take and what I will do and all this. No, you don't. Because you just may not have had, unfortunately, the situation come up where your boundaries have to get checked a bit. And you just need to be proactive. Be proactive. Take a stab at it. Make sure that you got everything aligned. Why not? What is it going to hurt? Again, it's just all preparation. Remember, they say if you stay ready, you don't have to worry about getting ready. So that's why you want to make sure you have everything aligned so that you are ready to move forward into your next level. Make sure you do that. Boundaries are key. So I'm going to, again, encourage you to do that. We are wrapping up this month. Next week, we'll talk more about, our goals going into Q2, because that will be the last Sunday of March before we go into April. And we'll talk about the new content coming up for April. I'm working on some things that I can't wait to share with you. And so I will make sure that I put Nedra's book in the show notes. I will link that. I'll also link Elizabeth Gilbert's again for the umpteenth time, I know. But I cannot stress how amazing that book is, especially for people who are creatives or who are trying to find the strength to bring forth their idea. I would even think probably an entrepreneur would benefit from that. I'm also going to link in the mantra for speaking over ourselves, because I want you to have something that you can just easily say to yourself in those situations where you need to be able to give yourself a little bit of love. And then I'm also going to link Atomic Habits, because I have heard that is an amazing book. I have not read it myself, but I believe Tennille Martinez, who's been on the show recently when we talked about Limitless, she's read Atomic Habits as well. And she did recommend it as a great book, especially as we were trying to build habits and foundations. So I think it would definitely be one to share in the show notes. I really appreciate you guys rocking with me. I know it may have sounded a little bit all over the map this week, but I'm not going to lie. Like I said, I'm still recovering from being triggered. Hopefully I'll have some resolution for that next week. I think I will. I mean, at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. It's just, I'm still riding the wave, but I want to thank you guys for being supportive and encouraging through that. And I will definitely make sure that I am back next week with another new episode as we wind into April. Very excited about that. And I hope that you guys have a restful weekend going into next week. I hope your week is peaceful. I hope your week is clear. I hope you know that boundaries are the key to your success. Ask for what you want and accept nothing less than that. Be reasonable. Now, but ask for what you want and be clear and be honest about what you need, because you deserve it. You are worth so much. So I want to thank you again. All of my social information will be in the show notes. And if you have any feedback for me, please don't hesitate to email me at theworldonlife@gmail.com. Give me a review on Apple Podcasts or any of the streaming networks. I love your reviews. I'm working on something special with that. So I definitely have some good things coming in the works. And I just, again, appreciate your continued support and encouragement on the journey. And I promise, yes, we will be back to the videos. I'm trying to figure out a schedule, a cadence for it, because with the way my recording schedule is kind of worked out, I just don't really think y'all want to see me recording with a sheet over my head or a headscarf sitting in my room like a hobbit. So I'm trying to work out some other things, maybe just doing guests. So we'll see. But again, I'm open to the feedback, open to your suggestions, because this is a time of growth for me, as well as a term of learning and understanding. So just want to, again, thank you for your support and encouragement. I will talk to you guys next week. Take care of yourselves and each other. Bye-bye.